Lieutenant Jessica Morgan had always been good with animals. Back on Earth, she'd grown up on a ranch in Montana, raising everything from horses to the occasional injured coyote pup. But nothing in her experience had prepared her for the Crythian cubs that now followed her like shadows through the corridors of the USS Perseverance. The mess hall fell silent as she entered. Behind her, 3 massive forms padded on 6 legs each, their obsidian scales catching the fluorescent light. The cubs, though calling them cubs seemed almost insulting given they each massed over 200 pounds, had their triple rows of teeth visible in what Jessica had learned was actually a relaxed expression. To everyone else on the ship, it looked like imminent death. Commander Rodriguez dropped his fork. "Morgan. What the hell are those doing outside quarantine?" Jessica grabbed a tray and started loading it with protein bars. "They're part of my team now, sir. Captain approved it this morning." "Your team?" The Centauri ambassador, a floating jellyfish-like creature in a mobility tank, pulsed an alarmed shade of purple. "Those are Crythian younglings. They're apex predators. Their species has been classified as hostile to all Galactic Council members for the past 3 centuries. "We're hostile," Jessica corrected, adding extra rations to her tray. She turned to face the room, where over 50 species from across the galaxy stared at her in various expressions of horror. Past tense. Turns out the Crythians weren't attacking colony ships for territory or resources. They were looking for their kids. The largest cub, Jessica had named him Dakota, nudged her leg with his armored head. She absently scratched behind his auditory ridges, and the creature's tail, tipped with a bone blade that could slice through steel, wagged like an excited puppy's. "Explain," demanded Ambassador Velkoth, a reptilian saurian whose own species was known for their military prowess. "Quickly, before I call security." Jessica sighed and sat down at the nearest table. The 3 cubs immediately arranged themselves around her in a protective triangle, their 6 eyes constantly scanning for threats. 3 months ago, we responded to a distress call from a mining colony on Kepler 442b. When we arrived, there was a Crythian ship in orbit. Standard protocol said to engage, but Captain Williams ordered us to hold position and observe. She pulled out her datapad, bringing up footage of the incident. The Crythian ship wasn't attacking. It was searching. We picked up their communications, took our AI 2 weeks to crack their language, but when we did, we found out they were calling for someone. Not something. Someone. The mess hall's occupants leaned in despite their fear. Even the cubs seemed to be listening, though Dakota kept one eye fixed on Ambassador Velkoth. Turns out, 15 years ago, human colony ships weren't the only ones that got hit during the frontier expansion. Several Crythian nursery vessels were caught in the crossfire. The galactic community wrote them off as casualties of war, but the Crythians? Jessica's voice hardened. They never stopped looking for their children. She gestured to the cubs around her. These 3 were being held in a research facility on Kepler 442b. The miners didn't even know what they had, they bought them from a trader who claimed they were exotic pets. When we investigated, we found 17 other Crythian younglings scattered across human colonies, being kept in zoos, private collections, even one in a circus. Commander Rodriguez had gone pale. The attacks were rescue missions, Jessica finished. Every hostile engagement for the past 3 years has been Crythian parents trying to get their kids back. We've been shooting at search and rescue operations. The Centauri ambassador's color shifted to a deep blue, shock, in their species. This changes everything. The Crythian War, the border conflicts, the classified military operations, all of it was a massive misunderstanding. Not entirely, Jessica admitted. They did destroy 17 ships. But only after being fired upon first. And only after their attempts at communication were ignored because we'd labeled them as hostile and refused to even listen. She pulled out 3 small devices from her pocket, translation collars she'd spent weeks developing with the ship's engineer. Gently, she fastened one around each cub's neck. Dakota's collar glowed blue, and a synthesized voice emerged. Mother Jessica keeps us safe. Mother Jessica brings us home. The mess hall erupted in chaos. Voices overlapped in a dozen languages, some demanding explanations, others calling for immediate council intervention. But Jessica just kept scratching Dakota's head, feeling the two other cubs press closer against her legs. "Here's what's going to happen," she said, her voice cutting through the noise with the authority of someone who'd faced down actual predators and lived. "In 6 hours, we rendezvous with a Crithian diplomatic vessel. I'm personally returning these 3 to their families. And then, humanity is going to help them find the others. All of them." Ambassador Velkotha's scales had gone rigid. "You're proposing an alliance with the Crithians? After centuries of conflict? Based on the word of 3 juveniles and a human's intuition?" Jessica stood, and the cubs rose with her, moving with the coordinated precision of a pack. "I'm not proposing anything, Ambassador. I'm telling you what's happening. Because here's what I learned about humans that maybe the rest of the galaxy hasn't figured out yet: we don't abandon kids. Not ours, not anyone's. And we sure as hell don't let bureaucracy stand in the way when children need to go home." Dakota let out a sound that the translator rendered as home. "Mother Jessica takes us home." The third cub, the smallest one Jessica called Montana, added, "Humans are pack. Good pack. Safe pack." Commander Rodriguez slowly stood and saluted. "For what it's worth, Lieutenant, I think you're doing the right thing. And for the record, you always did have a way with strays." Jessica smiled and returned the salute. Then she looked around the mess hall at the assembled representatives of the Galactic Council, at the dozens of species who'd been so certain of humanity's place in the cosmic hierarchy. "We humans have a saying," she told them. "The strength of the pack is the wolf, and the strength of the wolf is the pack. The Crithians understand that. Maybe it's time the rest of you did too." As she walked out with her team of predator cubs trailing behind her, Jessica could hear the debate starting up again, louder and more urgent than before. But she didn't look back. She had 3 kids to take home, and 14 more to find after that. And if the galaxy wanted to call that crazy? Well, humanity had been called worse for better reasons.